Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. And tonight is our National League 24-25 playoff preview. We do it absolutely every single year. We always get a fan from each of the following clubs involved in the playoffs. And this year it's no different. Before we get everyone on and talk about that, Paul, firstly, congratulations to you. You defined the odds. I didn't think you'd be sat next to me anymore, to be honest. But fortunately, I've got you for another year at least.
Yeah. Oh, Matt, what a Monday that was. I mean, a week ago today, it was, it was a incredible afternoon down at the Vale, Luke. I think Halifax played their part in helping Wealdstone get the result, because the team that was put out in the first 45 minutes, especially, I think there was 5 squad players that didn't play regularly, and Wealdstone really took them to the sword, but especially for the first half an hour, absolutely outplayed and battered them, and exactly what we wanted. There was just under 3,000 there, which was a huge crowd for us. Very even in the second half once the Halifax first team were essentially on the pitch, and you could see the true form that they are. And I know that the manager spoke about managing minutes, but he certainly did help Wealdstone. I have to admit, I genuinely didn't think Dagenham would not win at Solihull. I could not see Dagenham not win this one, especially what they needed to do for themselves, let alone anything else. And to see those misses that Dagenham made, the footballing gods were shining on Wealdstone on Monday afternoon. There's no two ways about it. That the chances, they missed 3 chances in the last 3 minutes when the game at Wealdstone had finished, let alone anything else. So, yeah, an incredible afternoon. We didn't get to celebrate winning the National League South, in 2020 because of COVID, Luke. So perversely celebrating that small moral victory of staying in the National League for the 6th season in a row is a weird phenomenon. Celebrating avoiding relegation, but for someone like Wealdstone, punching above their weight, it really felt like we'd almost won the league or got in the playoffs in that particular afternoon. So really good afternoon for us. It's not lost on us that we shouldn't have been in that position, but we were, and we managed to get out of it. So yeah, it was brilliant. It was brilliant, and I love seeing it. I love seeing all those fans just enjoying it, and how much it meant to the players and the new management team that we've had since the new year.
I just couldn't see it happening, to be honest. On that Monday morning, I just felt like it was the day that Wealdstone were finally going to get relegated. You look at Dagenham, I think you look at some of the quality in that side, coming up against the Solihull Moor side with an ex-manager who didn't particularly do too well for you. It did feel like it was kind of written in the stars for him to essentially relegate Wealdstone. And I thought Halifax would be. I actually thought we'd probably turn up in that game, and obviously we didn't. But I thought the bigger thing was actually Dagenham not winning at Solihull Moors, and of course that wasn't the case. Of course, Dagenham actually dropped points there. They were actually winning for the majority of the match, and Solihull managed to equalise. So I have to say, when I saw that goal go in, I was buzzing for you. And congratulations once again to yourself. And it's good to have you on the podcast for another year. An equally good day for you as well in terms of the Predictions League. How on earth have you actually done this? You've won the Predictions League. I've got my York City shirt that's been sent by a supporter, so much appreciated to him. I'll be having to wear that, not tonight, obviously, but I'll be wearing that in probably our end of season show that we'll do previewing the playoff final. But yeah, I don't know how you've done that, to be honest, Paul.
No, neither do I. But it was a Wealdstone double over Halifax on Monday, wasn't it? So yeah, I managed to pull out. But I do have to thank Sam and who else come on? He's got Rob, Sam and Rob who've helped me out in the few appearances I've not been able to make. So it was a group effort, but yeah, we managed to turn the tables on you, Luke, in the last few weeks and get you to wear that York City shirt in the next few weeks when they probably or likely are going to get promoted, and you'll have to sort of sit there and take all the flack.
Yes, of course, tonight's focus, that's enough of the chat about the Predictions League, the relegation battle. It's all on the playoffs. We'll have to see who's been coming in tonight first before we get everyone on. We've had Lee who's coming in and said, yo, Luke, Paul, evening, lads. Welcome to the stream, Lee. We've also had James, who I believe is a York fan. He said, evening all. We've had Caroline as well, who's come on, who's a channel member, said, good evening. Welcome to the stream, Caroline. And then we've also had... I don't even know how to pronounce that. A Southend United supporter said Trimpers on the march. 1200 plus to Rochdale. Next stop on the promotion bus. Yeah, so we might as well bring our first supporter in tonight. And I think a perfect way to start would probably be with a Southend United supporter. And of course, it is Finn, of course, runs the Blue News podcast. Finn, debut on the show. I've been on your podcast before. Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I've had both of you on my podcast, so it feels a bit weird to kind of be on the receiving end of a podcast. To be honest, I've never been on anybody else's, so this is my first time not hosting, which is a little bit strange.
It's, to be fair, I actually find it easier going on other people's podcasts because there's not the pressure and everything. But no, Southend in the playoffs, I suppose. That's another shock for me overall. Actually, Southend finishing inside the playoffs. I think it was only the second game week of the season that you're inside a playoff spot. And of course, you're in the playoffs now after securing a point at Gateshead. Firstly, before we get on to anything else, what was that like for you, securing a playoff spot? Did you expect it?
I'd say it was quite a shock. What you're saying there, we're only in the playoffs. I literally did a post about it a few hours ago. We're only in the playoffs 9 days before the total in the whole season. Until we secured that spot, only 2 games, so we really snuck in right at the end. I think if you ask any Southend fan right now, like how we're feeling right now, really, really happy with the season and stuff. And it was a bit of a shock getting in the playoffs because there's been quite a few really, really bad games. I won't lie, like Maidenhead losing there was shocking. We got knocked out the FA Trophy to Sittingbourne. Would have loved to got to the final there, but there's always next year. But there's been some really poor games, and at times it's been like, and even I've been guilty of it. I think after the Braintree game, that was the first time that I properly thought, okay, it's over for us, because other teams, I think at that point we're about 4 points off the playoffs, and it's like, we're not going to catch that. to be completely honest, I'm a massive optimist, but even I was like, I'm not sure about that. So yeah, there's been times throughout the season where we haven't thought that we're really going to get in at the end, but yeah, we're here now. We did our job against Gateshead. So, Wembley, here we come, hopefully.
Yeah, I think a lot of other people and other clubs have always looking into Southend at the moment as a bit of a dark horse inside the playoffs because there's simply no pressure on you. I think for the majority of the season, you've mentioned it there's been a lot of shocking games, I suppose, for Southend. And for me, it didn't feel like they were actually good enough this season to finish inside the playoffs. But suppose you could say, obviously, it's the ability of Southend. I think they've done well with the final running of games to be able to get inside the playoffs. But what I will also say is, suppose, I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but you've been a little bit fortunate with the likes of Gateshead and Altrincham slipping up like they have done. And probably even Halifax, I suppose. I know we finished above you, but still.
Yeah, we've been very, very fortunate. I think, to be honest, as much as we love National League, it's probably been one of the worst playoff races I've ever seen. It's basically been who is the least worst out of the lot who gets in. But yeah, and we've been very lucky with like Gateshead dropping like so many points. But yeah, there's an element of fortune, 100%, because there's been times, like I said, with like the Braintree game where we dropped a crucial few points. Solihull, we lost at home to Solihull when we should have won. And there's so many times where it's like, okay, that's it for us. We're out of it. But somehow the other teams just managed to lose unbelievable games and keep us in it, which was quite nice. So yeah.
Brilliant. And we'll bring our next fan in to the podcast. Now, of course, it's a Rochdale fan who you're up against tonight. It's Tom from the All Dale Aren't We podcast. Tom, firstly, welcome to the stream once again. How are you feeling now securing a playoff spot? I suppose you kind of knew for the final couple of game weeks that you're going to be inside the playoffs, but you're probably in the best spot in terms of not finishing second or third. You've got that home tie against the side that sneaked in. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Listen, we'll probably say we're on the favourable side of the draw. Happy to obviously finish in that top quarter-final spot and get them and secure the home draw. It's been a weird season, really, all in all. Obviously, started the season, we'd had a whole hostile takeover stuff that's been running on for a couple of years. And obviously we secured our future with new ownership in the summer. We've been able to have a proper go at it and sign some decent players for this level of football. And the season started pretty well, pretty strong. And I was fairly confident and optimistic in the early stages. And we put that into practice for, I'd probably say, the first couple of months of the coming up to the winter time period, our pitch took a massive hit. through the weather and the poor weather around Rochdale, we ended up with a backlog of, I think, of about 6 or 7 games in hand to play while still being in a fairly decent position. But I think ultimately having those games in hand is different to having points on the board. And even though we were very optimistic that we would probably cruise on into the semi-final spots, that didn't happen, and it's been a bit of a slog through the second half of the season. We've managed to show a level of bounce back ability, getting a few good results and little mini runs of form going together, so that's been positive. Honestly, at some points I didn't think we were going to make it in there, especially after the the Spennymoor loss in the FA Trophy semi-final at home after being 30 seconds away from winning the thing and to losing on penalties. I thought that would really destabilise us, but somehow we've managed to sneak on in there. We've made a good use of the market this season, and just managed to secure that spot now, and hopefully, because we've got the home tie, it'll play into our advantage.
Yes, of course, Rochdale will be coming up against Southend United. Whoever progresses out of that game will actually be coming up against Forest Green Rovers away. And we've actually brought on a Forest Green Rovers fan tonight. I believe it is Dylan. Dylan, welcome to the podcast. Firstly, how are you feeling about the playoffs? I suppose you kind of knew you were finishing third for a number of weeks, if not months, before the season ended.
Well, I mean, you are quite right there. I mean, for me, coming into the season was actually playing some good football after the 2 years we had. Obviously, dropping from League One down. But I'm excited to say that for the National League playoffs, it's going to be fun. Whatever it will be, we'll be playing, Southend or Rochdale. I don't think either game, whoever we get, is going to be easy, but we shall see when it comes to it.
We've also got Sammy on tonight, who's an FC Halifax Town fan as well. Sammy, firstly, we've managed to secure a playoff spot. I suppose we did it the hard way in the end. Not the greatest form towards the end of the season, though.
No, it wasn't. But, we've managed second year in a row. And I think even though last results like Wealdstone we mentioned before we went live, and then also that thrashing with Altrincham, which is pretty. It's still pretty impressive considering the amount of injuries that we've had. We've been without Jack Evans, Max Wright, Sam Johnson, of course, very recently. So yeah, I think we've managed, and I think that's testament to just our character as a team and the resilience that we've got despite some of those poor results we've got here. So what you can't ask for more than that, can you?
No, and someone's actually come in tonight. I think it's an Oldham fan. Oh, someone's actually said, I think Oldham have the easiest game. No offence to Halifax. And I suppose on social media, I don't know what you thought about that, but that's kind of the perception. And for me, I don't blame people for saying that. You look at Halifax's form at the moment, 2 wins in 10. I suppose the only thing I like about that is the fact that we're kind of the underdogs and there's no pressure on us. We're not really expected to win.
No, I'll be honest. I am expecting to go to Boundary Park on Wednesday and come back in a very bad mood. And I live in Manchester, so I'm just going to be surrounded by Oldham, which is not ideal. But yeah, I mean, with Wealdstone, for example, we had the opportunity to essentially help to relegate them there, and I thought, what, these guys, they've probably got the best team that they could play to get their chance of staying up, because I think anyone could get points against us. So yeah, as much as I don't want to admit it, I probably do think that the people are right, that we are the easiest team to play against. But I don't know, that's just me being pessimistic, and based on recent performances, I've not been blown away. But then again, like I said, we've managed to finish in the playoffs better than we did last season as well. So there's something in that.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you. I think for me overall, the season as a whole, it's kind of strange, because for me, I see it as a successful season. But then I look at the final games, I feel like we had an opportunity to actually progress further into the playoffs. Suppose the thinking behind that could be that maybe we want to be the away team because we've got a better away form. But we've also got David with us tonight on behalf of York City. David, of course, you've always been on the Twitter Spaces. It's finally good to get you on the podcast. Firstly, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Luke. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to the playoffs. I suppose for you, that first game, likewise with Dylan, you can just sit back for the first week and watch all the games. Yeah, how are you feeling going into these playoffs? Of course, you were quite professional towards the end of the season, considering you kind of lost the league title to Barnet. You remained competitive, I suppose, and didn't slip away.
Yeah, in the best form, I think, aren't they? York City of any team, not just the teams in the playoffs, but I think any team in the league over the last 6, 8, or 10 games. I think the top of the pile for each of them, don't they? Listen, I'm obviously desperate for York City to go up, and they're going to go into these playoffs as big favourites. When you look at the results they've had against the other teams in the playoffs, I think they've taken 4 points off everybody apart from Forest Green. Actually, have taken 4 points off York. But this gap does worry me a little bit, if I'm being brutally honest. I think it's a crazy schedule that they've come up with this year, the National League. Whether it's a bit of a handicap or not, having to go over 2 weeks without a game, I'm not quite sure. I suppose it will all depend, won't it, on what happens on Wednesday at Boundary Park. And if either of those two sides were to, I don't know, get anyone sent off or pick up some injuries that they then weren't going to be ready for that game, that semi-final at the LNER, it maybe could be an advantage for York. But at the minute, City have got a fully fit squad to go from. They've scored more goals than everybody else. I don't think there's too many reasons to doubt the fact that York City will be favourites going into this, and they're quite rightly favourites. Sadly, we've all seen favourites come unstuck on plenty of occasions, haven't we? So just because they are favourites, by no means does that mean that York City will definitely go up or at least get to the final.
Dylan, for you as well, I know David's kind of touched on it there, but with the gap between the the season and the semi-final, do you see that as a bit of a disadvantage for yourself?
No, I think we're up for it, to be honest. I mean, the past few games hasn't been our best. It's weird because I was saying Forest Green have been on a bit of a downward spiral performances since November, but still managed to stay third. But as I say, we got the quality. I think looking at the players we've got in our team, we've got I'd say we've got the best squad in the league when it comes to players' names. So I don't think going into this we're at no disadvantage. I feel like we're full steam ahead. We've
also got Chris with us tonight, who's an Oldham fan. It's good to get an Oldham fan on tonight. Chris, firstly, how are you doing? Joining us, of course, all the way over from France. It's probably 9:30, I'd have thought, over there by now.
9:20 here, Luke. Yeah, good evening, everybody. Yeah, you were looking forward to Wednesday, getting ready for it, excited, nervous. What can I say? It's not a given, is it? Nothing's a given in this competition now. It's a cup match, isn't it? End of the day, it's. People say, "Oh, we're going to win, we're going to beat Halifax," but you've got to play the good teams, York, Southend, Forest Green to get through. You've got to beat all the best teams, haven't you? So you don't matter who you draw, it's a lottery, and we're in there, aren't we? That's all that matters. We're all in there, so let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens.
I suppose for Oldham overall as well, when you look at the season as a whole, it's kind of been an up and down season, but it's also been quite a historic season because it's the first time that we've actually finished inside the playoffs for 18 years, which is actually my lifetime, believe it or not. So yeah, what's your thoughts on the season overall before we actually come on to the playoffs?
Can I swear? No, I think we've been pretty poor on the. I think we started off okay. We had some lucky results up to and around mid-December. I think Paul mentioned it a few times on the podcast. Even when we beat Wealdstone away, we were fortunate. We had a few fortunate results. We had some lucky results, I think. And then we lost one or two players. We lost a lot of players through injury. Obviously, we lost Stonesy to York there, but they can have him. He's crap. So and then we lost Lucas to Lincoln. But I think we started to recruit, but there was a bit of an allegation that Mellons was scattering on recruitment. Really, it wasn't. There's a lot of we seem to have about 30 midfield players coming all at once. Like in January, we've got a busters for the midfield department. But I think we're okay. I think we've got a good squad. We've got the players coming back now. I think Monty's coming back. Norwood's coming back. I think we've got it in us to do all right. But the season as a whole, I think we've underperformed. I think if we'd have played York on Boxing Day, the fog wouldn't have come down. It could have been a different. I don't know. It's stupid things like that have gone against us. And a couple of bad refereeing decisions. The penalty we never got at Southend, which have give them 2 points extra and sent Gateshead out. Over the season these things pan out, but it could have been so different. It could have been Gateshead. It could have been. It could have been anybody. We've had some bad decisions that have gone for us. Some penalty, it swings around the best of the season. And at the end of the day, We've improved. Am I happy? No. Do I like this league? I get fed up with the officials. I get fed up with it sometimes, but equally so, we're no bigger than anybody else, and we are where we are. We deserve to be where we are. End of the day, and so we just got to do our best now on Wednesday against you a lot.
Paul, just yourself looking into the playoffs, particularly on Oldham at the moment. What's your thoughts on them going into this playoffs?
Oldham's a really difficult one to predict, isn't it? I know Chris has heard me say on the podcast, some of the other guys who listen, is they've got everything in their locker to be a really strong National League team, and they just don't seem to have been able to put the pieces together consistently over the last few years to make that run. I think with Oldham, what they need to do is just make Boundary Park a fortress, which is something else they haven't probably done as much as they should have done. And if you look at any of these playoff games now, to a point, the league form will go out the window because, as David Crowley said, with this schedule and it being so far removed probably from the league finishing, that actually you can kind of forget that league form. You're now talking knockout cup football, and Oldham have really got to use that against Halifax for being at home at Boundary Park. I saw some pictures on Twitter today, and the pitch looks beautiful. That it'll probably be 8,000-9,000 there, Chris. So they've got. I think Oldham have got to use that to their advantage. All the home teams have. They've got they're big teams in there now. They've got good stadiums. They've got big crowd. Big fan bases. They've got to utilise that against the teams that are going to go away from home. Saying that, it's not a given. We look at the EFL playoffs. Not one home team has won a tie in the first set of legs. So, yeah, it's a really difficult one. But I think, having seen Halifax, and it's unfair for me to comment on Halifax having seen them play Wealdstone, because I essentially saw the reserve team in the first half, and that was an unfair reflection, I think, on what Halifax are capable of. What they did in the second half was so much better, and you could see the ability they had. But they were 3-0 down with 45 minutes to go of the season. None of them want to get sent off. None of them want to get booked. None of them want to get injured. So, I think Halifax managed the minutes of their players, managed the squad. The manager's now looked to what he can and can't pick. And I think his team's probably picked itself after that performance against Wealdstone. So, Halifax are going to go into it free hit, and they could be dangerous. But I think Oldham have the advantage just being at home at Boundary Park.
We've got a bit of full house on Wednesday. I think it's going to be. I think Halifax have pretty much sold out now, haven't they? They've got about 300 left, and I think we're down to about 300 or 400 left. So it's going to be 10,500, 11,000 there. It's going to be a good atmosphere, good crack, good for the league. I mean, it is what it is. I think your ground's a bit bigger now. It's a shame it's not your place. We could have really filled something, couldn't we? But you know what I mean. But hey, it is what it is. And like I say, it's just, let's hope the best team wins. Let's hope we're not talking about a crap refereeing decision. We're talking about a good game. Because we have, all season I've been griping at referees every week. Even when we win, the referee were crap. You know what I mean? But I'm hoping that we can. And end of the day, as long as the team who deserves to win wins fairly, squarely, no cheating, no bad decisions. We're not talking about bad refereeing. We won't be talking about VAR, thank God, will we? But we'll be talking about, hopefully, a good game of football, a good half for the league, and whoever goes on to win it, good luck to them. And, whoever goes on to Wembley, good luck to them as well. It's what it's all about, the season, isn't it? It keeps the season alive. It does exactly what it says on the tin, the playoffs. Since 87, we were the first team that fell foul of going up in 87. Was our that game against Leeds. So we've not got a good history against Yorkshire clubs, have we, on the quiet? But there you go. So we need to turn that round as well, Luke. So get ready for Wednesday. We're going to thrash you. No, I'm joking. It's a toss of a coin. Toss of a coin, mate.
Yes, Sammy, for you as well. Someone's actually commented here about the actual pitch at Halifax and the fact that it's a good job it's actually not at the Shea because of the pitch. I suppose for you, are you glad it's away from the Shea, or would you much prefer in the playoffs for it to be a home tie?
I mean, we tend to play better away from home, so I think that is on our side. The pitch, it's a very fair point. I mean, if you remember last season, waterlogged pitch meant that we had to cram in our last few games in neutral grounds, which wasn't ideal. One of those games was against Oldham, if you remember. So, yeah, I mean, obviously it's always nice to be at home, but I just don't think that the Shea is the fortress that we want it to be. And if you look at results, we do tend to play better away. So I think we're just going to use that to our advantage. And we're going to be bringing a lot of fans with us. So arguably more than we would get on a standard home game at the Shea. So I think it's fine. I think we'll really take the advantage of having the backing and a pitch that isn't the Shea, and hopefully a bit of good luck. I don't know.
I have to say something about that Halifax. I'm not sure if they get much of a home advantage, even if the pitch was decent, because there's so much room for away fans there. To Oldham, to York, I imagine, Sammy, you might be able to put me right, you would end up losing home advantage by the number of the crowd that were there. So you'd end up being almost like the away team playing at home. It wouldn't feel like a home game.
Yeah, we've had many occasions where I remember in the FA Cup a few years ago we played Bradford City, and they sold out like a full terrace and then a bit of the Skirker and maybe a bit of the East Stand. Can't remember if we opened the final up. So yeah, when we play a local rival, particularly in a big game, we can feel a little bit outnumbered, and it's like, wait, this is supposed to be our ground. So yeah, you are right, and I think Oldham definitely would have brought a fair few, a couple of thousand at least, I imagine.
Thank God we're not playing Oldham, because they always sell out more fans in our ground than our own home support. So I'm used to that as well.
Yeah, I suppose as well, you've not got the best record against Oldham either, so I suppose you'll be hoping they get knocked out until the final. A few people have come in saying what a final it would be, Rochdale Oldham in the final, but something I will say about this year is there's a lot of people who've got the finals that they'd like, and if you think about if it's York Oldham, if it's Southend, York, whoever it is in the final, it feels like it's going to be a good set of playoffs this year. And for me, although York are miles clear in terms of the points this season, we've seen times and times again where it's not come to fruition, where the best side in the regular season actually goes up. Of course, Notts County came second against Wrexham that season when they were both miles ahead. Probably not to the same extent this year, but, I think York and Barnet are clear of everyone else in the division. But what I will say is, if you remember when Notts went up, it wasn't an easy route to promotion. Boreham Wood, I think they had to get a last-minute equaliser to even take it to extra time before winning that game at home, for then the final to actually win on penalties against Chesterfield. So even if York do go up, for me, I just can't see it being a breeze. What about you, David? What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, it won't be a breeze. The thing I found really interesting is the fact that Adam Hinshelwood played his best side all the way through to the end of the season. Even though there was nothing riding on these games, he's played his first 11 week in, week out, whereas, as you know, at Halifax, he's had to rest players because he's not had everyone available. York have got no injuries in their squad. Every single first-team player, bar one, and that's Paddy McLaughlin, who hasn't played at all season, just been knocking around the squad. Every single person is fully fit and have been for a number of weeks. So he's not rotated his side. They know exactly what they're doing. He's played his strongest 11 week in, week out. It was a bit of a scare down at Eastleigh when Ollie Pearce went off with about 20 minins left holding his hamstring. But I think he just fancied a bit of a laugh and just walked off behind the goal. The substitution came on. By the time he got around to the dugout, he was full of smiles and was giggling with the rest of the bench. So I think York are in the best position. But again, it's this 2-week gap that worries me a little bit. And I think that's probably why he played his best side all the way through, because he knew they were going to get a lot of time off. But like Chris as well, I have concerns about the referee, whoever we get. Every single week, we are talking about refereeing decisions. And this is coming from a side that have won lots and lots and lots of games. If you're then having to come off and you're still talking about refereeing decisions, you know that the standard of officiating this season has been atrocious. And it could easily, one of these games, be decided on the refereeing decision.
Let's hope not. But I mean, the Premier League rest down in the referee in the Premier League's rubbish. I mean, VAR's gone to crap. Thank God the referee turned the decision over, went to the monitor at weekend and said, "No, I'm standing with my on-field decision." I actually got goosebumps. I was so delighted to see a referee stand up and have the bollocks to say, "No, I'm sticking by my on-field decision." I used to be a referee, a bad one as well. I admit it, but there you go.
Fair enough then, Chris. I think, moving on to the specific games then now. I think we'll start things off with the Southend versus Rochdale game. I'll ask, of course, Dylan, and I'll ask David as well, who you'd actually prefer in the semi-final. And we'll talk about that game potentially, if you got who you'd want, later on in the podcast. But firstly, starting things off with the Southend Rochdale game. I think for you, firstly, Finn, we've spoke about your sneaking into the playoffs at the last minute. How do you approach these playoffs now? Do you see it as a bit of a free hit, or have you got expectations?
Well, I think the thing that with this season, why in places we struggle quite a lot with Southend. I mean, last season and probably the season before, for quite a while at the club now, we've had no expectations at all. The expectation really is that we weren't going to be a club. That was what we expected, and for many months, years, we didn't know if we'd have a club the next day, be it a few months. So I think this season, it's been the first season where we've had some expectations, and a lot of fans can fall into the trap of when you get a takeover, you suddenly think, all right, we're going to win the league, or we're going to be right up there. And obviously it's panned out that we have finished in the playoffs, but it's not always that simple. And a lot of what Koju, our new owners, have had to do is really behind the scenes stuff. So fixing the stadium, things like that, financial stability, something we haven't had in so long. So yeah, there's expectations, but I think to answer your question, I think it is a bit of a free hit in a sense, because I don't think, well, at times in the season, I think we really didn't expect to be here. I think at one point in the season we were bottom half, like 14th, something like that. So to be in this playoffs now, it's amazing to even get here. So yeah, to answer your question, it is essentially a bit of a free hit, but I think now we're here, we really want to push on and hopefully get to the final, or as far as we can get, really.
Yeah, someone's going with the snide comment. Yeah, normal accent. Whatever, guys. Anyway, but no, of course, yeah. For me, like I said, I look at Southend and I see them as a side that I kind of fear in the playoffs. If you look in previous years, it's usually been second or third that get promoted. Second inside the playoffs. In the previous 7 years, when the new format of the playoffs was implemented, where there's 6 sides inside the playoffs in the National League. Second place has gone up 3 times in that time. Third place has gone up 2 times. Fourth place, which was actually Hartlepool during the COVID season, have gone up once. And then 6th place, Grimsby, went up. Now, what I see the comparison in is, I don't know about you, Finn, but I see a slight comparison in Grimsby and Southend. Grimsby came down into the National League. I don't think overall he had the greatest season. I don't think the fans were particularly pleased with what they'd seen. They were kind of on the fringes of the playoffs for the majority of the season. And then they managed to maintain a playoff spot on the final day, I believe, as well, like Southend. And then they went into the playoffs, and then they just had this kind of momentum from that first game. The way they won that first game against Notts County, it gave them the momentum to go on and win again. And they found themselves in the Football League. I don't think you looked that season and thought Grimsby were the second best team, even the third best team in the National League that season, but they found a way to get promoted. Do you kind of take any, inspire, I suppose, with what Grimsby did? Because I think a lot of people are thinking similar things to Southend.
Absolutely. It's actually kind of weird that you say that, because I was saying this to my dad the other day about Grimsby, that how similar our situation is in quite a few ways. And quite often the team that sneaks in right at the end are the team that go on to do it. And you think, how on earth have they done that? They were not the second best team. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But I do think there are similarities in the sense that we're probably, for most of the season, we haven't been the second best team, probably not the third best team. And yeah, obviously we finished 7th. So yeah, but I agree with you. I think there are similarities in us and Grimsby in the sense that we've snuck in on a bit of form. And yeah, we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, we certainly will. So if Southend did go on to get promoted, which is still a big if, they will be the first side to actually get promoted from finishing 7th in the playoffs since the new format came into place. Over 80 people watching at the moment. Please remember to like and subscribe. It does really mean a lot if you do that. Of course, as well to you, Tom, up against Southend. I suppose for you, who would you have ideally wanted? I suppose you'll probably say Halifax.
Yeah, obviously on the final day, that was kind of the result I was looking out for. Ideally, as Finn talks about, a team coming in with momentum, it's that kind of worries me a little bit. And our record hasn't been great against Southend this season. I think they came up to our place earlier in the season when you were talking about when you were being down in the bottom half of the table, and got a plucky 1-0 win, and I think we drew up at their place 1-1. So it does concern me, but again, kind of just echoing Finn's views about the club, because I think we're both our clubs have been in very similar situations over the past year or two. Last year for us, it was touch and go at points whether we were even going to have a club. It was down to a point of whether if a buyer didn't come in, we were going to be liquidated. But obviously, unfortunately, the Ogdens stepped in and have took over the club, and things are starting to progress a lot. But I think, again, it's been dealing with all the off-field issues a lot this season. Even though we've had a stronger base to work from this season than last year, we've had a lot of things going on about trying to make the club self-sustainable, and we've had a massive issues with the pitch, which has cost us a lot of finances throughout the season. So I mean, I'm just happy to be in this position. It's our first playoff chances since 2009, I believe, and yeah, just not going into it with too much expectations, but I'd like to hope that we could get the job done on home soil in this first game.
So do you feel confident overall then, going into this game against Southend?
What I'd say is Rochdale blow hot and cold, and they can look spectacular at points and really put teams to the sword. But if teams can play with a low block and counter attack, that is our Achilles heel. So if Southend come with that kind of game plan and it's not an open game, I think they've got probably a strong chance of getting something out of us. If it's an open game, I think we can take anybody on our day, apart from York probably. But yeah, it just depends on how the game plays out on Thursday for me.
I think as well, I look at this game and I look at Rochdale's position. You say it's an advantage finishing fourth, and I think overall it is, but the only thing you will say, you're playing against seventh, who've got form coming into the playoffs, usually seventh. They're on the fringes. On paper, you might think, yeah, but they're the worst side in the playoffs. But if you actually look at it, it's probably the side that's on the hottest form at the moment, getting the momentum. Whereas, for example, a Halifax, kind of fortunate to be inside the playoffs, didn't really have anything to play for on the final day. A lot of injuries at the moment. I think a lot of people would want them inside the playoffs. Maybe even potentially Oldham. I don't know what your thoughts would be on that. Whereas Southend, they've got the momentum. But also, if you actually look at the record against Rochdale, they've taken 4 points off you this season.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I remember going up to the game at home earlier in the season because it was I think it was the zone game. I think it was a 5:30 kickoff, and it was a non-contest really. There was nothing really going on, and Southend played that exact style of football that we can't deal with. We couldn't get anything going, any shots off, and they stuck a goal in at half time, and that was it really. That was all there was to it. Obviously at Southend, again, not much going on. I think we were a game that we were fairly in control of. And then obviously conceding late on, if I believe it was an own goal. So yeah, the kind of game that it in the format, and like I say, how they're running into it with form does worry me. But I would also caveat that as well as saying that we've not really been secure in the playoffs up until, I would probably say, the Altrincham game a few weeks ago, and we were lucky to win that game away from home. So it's been, for a lot of fans, we were unsure whether we were going to make it in there ourselves. It's just been from probably Oldham's inability to put a run together towards the end that we've managed to kind of leapfrog a few teams, and other teams being poor around us, and just trying to manage to sneak a few results here and there.
100%. As well for you, Finn, coming into this game, how do you see it? I won't say planning out, but how are you feeling overall for it? Do you feel you could progress? So yeah, basically the first question.
Well, it's difficult, to be honest. I'm a huge optimist, and I think you've kind of got to be if you're a Southend fan. We've had so much rubbish over the years that it's like, if you're not optimistic, then you'll just be crying all the time with the stuff that we've had to go through. But I think what you say about form and us coming into the game on good form, but we shouldn't ignore that Rochdale are on pretty good form as well. I know they lost against Braintree, but they had some pretty good results lately. So I do definitely think that Rochdale are a solid side. I think I'm more optimistic because of what you said about us taking quite a few points off of them this season. It always makes you feel a bit more confident. But at the end of the day, it's the playoffs. And I think it's worth mentioning how big these teams are in the playoffs. And I think it's probably the most exciting set of teams in the playoffs that I've seen in years, because every single team has proper fan bases, and they're quite big teams as well, like massive teams in there. And I think as a set of teams, I mean, they couldn't be really further from me if they tried, but it's all right, especially because I'm in Kent, so it's even further. But I think they're a really good set of teams, and I think Rochdale are also a good side. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I am positive, but I don't know if that's just blind positivity, but we'll have to see.
Can I just ask? Sorry.
Yeah,
Can I just ask Finn? Obviously, I've not really watched much of you this season, apart from the games earlier in the season. What is your style of play?
It's really quite a lot of the time it's quite slow, which isn't ideal. Quite a lot of it's passing and knocking it around, that sort of thing. But I think a lot of the fans' frustrations this season, because there has been quite a bit in places. I think it hasn't so much been with the results, because we finished in the playoffs, so our results have been pretty good for the most part. We've had a few blips in bad results, but I think style of play has really been what's frustrated fans quite a lot. And we, some games we a bit like yourself actually. Some games we really, really turn up. Some games we just completely don't. And I think the games where we do turn up, we really, really, really attack. We're really, really direct. But I think a lot of the season has been quite slow passing football. But yeah, I think we're quite strong defensively. I think we've lost Kensdale at the start of the season, so that hindered our defence quite a lot. But we've got. I think when you look at our team, a lot of our goals come from different areas. So we don't really have a striker who can just put away, like you have in Rodney, who scored quite a few goals this season. Obviously, we've got Gus Scott Morris, but we don't quite have that striker who can just put away goals. So you'll see, if you look at the sheet, a lot of our goals just come from all over the place. And Gus, our right back, right wing back, whatever you want to call him, there are 17 goals now this season. And then if you look at our defence, like Goodlift's got quite a few. I think he's up to 3 or 4 this season, who's our centre back. And James Golden, who is injured now, and I don't think he'll play for the rest of the season. I believe he's actually on holiday, so I don't think he's going to be playing. But he's also scored a few. So, yeah, I think we can be quite slow in places, but we'll have to see what team really turn up.
Sounds similar to us then, really.
Yeah, quite similar, yeah.
Yeah, I think overall, just coming to you, Paul, as well, I want to ask, how do you actually see this game going, Paul?
Well, I always favour those teams that come into playoffs with that, late on and pick up essentially what you think is a good bit of form. I mean, someone has made a point here. Did Southend have momentum, or did Gateshead fall apart? And it's a difficult one to say. I think what you got to consider, and what Finn has touched on, is that they're very frugal defensively, Southend. They've let very few goals in. When you look at the league table, I've just been looking now as you're talking, they've only let in 48 goals. There's not many other teams that have let that few in. The challenge is they don't score. And if you look at how they've done, they've only lost 12 games, but drawn 17. So they're not converting maybe the draws into wins that they probably should do, because they haven't got that 20-goal striker that Finn talks about. So it's a difficult one. I know with Rochdale that they've certainly got a player, and I know in Taran Alarakia, who's very decent on the wing and is one that can win a game for you, as an example. So I think 2 different styles, really. I think Rochdale probably, I could be wrong, sort of almost play more on the front foot and a bit more attacking than Southend. It could be a really good game because you've got that defence versus attack scenario in terms of how, especially with Southend being away from home. So I see Southend as a dark horse. My challenge is what Forest Green Rovers are going to be like, and Dylan may be able to touch on that more, because I almost feel like Forest Green Rovers have been treading water for months. They were never going to be out of the playoffs. They were never going to win the league at a point. And they're thinking, at what point do we really know what Forest Green Rovers are? Because yes, they've got okay form and they're winning games, but should they be winning more games? Should they be doing better? Or is that how they're the one that intrigues me. So whoever gets through Rochdale and Southend, I think they're playing Forest Green Rovers, who have been just going along quietly and slowly, but is there more in there?
100%. I think as well for me, and I'll speak to you, Dylan, as well, because I know I've kind of had you down there and you've not really spoken too much yet. But what I think a lot of people aren't realising about Forest Green is I kind of think a lot of people have thought, well, York and Barnet being far superior, which they have, but Forest Green for the majority of the season, probably the first 2/3, were also with those 2 sides. And then they went on a really bad run of form. And I think everyone just got this kind of narrative of Forest Green must have been poor for the rest of the season. If you actually look at the previous 4 games, they've come back into a little bit of form. Dylan, just on yourself there, you've mentioned there earlier, you've made a statement about you feel that Forest Green probably have the best squad in the division. Not squad, but the biggest names, I suppose, in the division. Who would you prefer, I suppose, in that semi-final? And how do you see the quarter going?
Well, I mean, you look at both teams we played during the season. We picked up 2 points at Southend and 4 boring points against Rochdale, both games we played. I was there at both fixtures and both sides were just not very good either at Southend or Forest Green. As Paul said as well, I think it's a weapon you should have messed with. I think Forest Green's been brewing for a long time for some actual really good performances. But I've kind of said to the fans around Forest Green and said, look, we've been on this downward spiral for 2 years. Cottrell's coming to steady the ship, but I don't think he's a manager to really take you that far anymore. He's rebuilt that squad. He's got the resources. We're one of the richest teams in the league. And look, we're here now. We're coming into these playoffs. Every player's fit. And probably as well with this time off, waiting to see we play, we're going to have better advantage of the tired teams either between Southend or Rochdale. If I had to choose, I see Southend more as a challenger properly. Like it'd be a quarter game. Because you look back at the games we played this season against Southend, it's been quite high-scoring matches, both teams catching each other off, where Rochdale has been very possession-based, very passive, boring, and that shouldn't be for a playoffs, And plus, they've got to come to Forest Green. I mean, as people are saying, every team in this league's got big fan bases. You missed us out here. I can't wait to go to Wembley with 4 people in a taxi, But, yeah, I think for myself, I would much prefer Southend to play. But as I said, players are fit, got the advantage of 2 teams about to play each other. I think we've got the hot spot for Wembley, in my opinion.
Yeah, Luke.
There we go. I was thinking to mute it there. Yeah, I suppose as well, just coming back to that Southend Rochdale game as well. Finn, I'm going to ask you, what is the overall prediction for this one, and how do you actually see the game planning out?
Well, it's difficult. If you'd asked me a few months ago, I do think I'd be a lot less positive. And really, I think 2 players, and I don't like to say that it's just down to these 2 players that we're in the playoffs now. But I said earlier that we're really, really slow for a lot of the season. But suddenly we've had a shift, and actually a lot of our games recently have been attacking quite fast and direct. And genuinely, I think that's because of the introduction of Keenan Abiya-Fulson and Leon Parallon, 2 players that I just think are quality. And when you have them in that side, they make it really attacking direct. They're so skillful and technically, probably the 2 technically most gifted players at the club. And we've had Keenan since, I believe, the start of the season, certainly September. And we didn't really play him at all from October to, I want to say, about February. He wasn't injured or anything, so I don't know why he didn't play, but he was given his chance and he's been fantastic. So I'm feeling a lot more confident with those 2 in the team. Leon hasn't started the last 3 games, I believe. I don't really know why, to be honest. He's not been injured. He's been on the bench. But yeah, I think with those 2, it really gives us a bit of an attacking drive. So yeah, I'm feeling quite confident. An overall prediction might be difficult. But I'm not going to come in here and predict a loss. So I'm going to say a 2-1 win, but maybe a late goal or something. But I'm definitely not predicting a loss. So I'd never do that.
For you then, Tom, I think I'm going to travel over to you now. How do you see the game going overall?
I think it'll be a tight, cagey affair, given that, what Dylan was saying, we are very much a possession-based team. We play that kind of football that can be quite boring at times, can be brilliant, but can also be an awful watch at points. I think we've got players in form at the right moments now. We've just got Jay Bird back from injury. He's been a massive boost to us. Obviously, Devante Rodney in the second half, and especially these last few games, has started picking up quite a few goals. Harvey Gilmore from midfield runs things. And obviously, the talismanic striker that is Ian Henderson to rely on for a goal. He's always good for a goal. I see it being a tough game. I never like to be too optimistic, because when I do, it always seems to bite me back. But I will go for a 2-0 Dale win.
Paul, your prediction then?
Southend to win 2-1.
I think for me, as on this game, when I'm looking at it, I have a sneaky feeling Southend will do it. I think overall, if I put team to team, I think Rochdale probably have the better individuals. I think that's proven why they finished higher up. But I just feel like in a one-off match, Southend have got that momentum. I know people have made the statement about Gateshead with that poor, and that's why Southend have managed to sneak into the playoffs last minute. But I still think they must carry so much momentum after, just getting the opportunity to be in the playoffs compared to Rochdale, who I know you've mentioned there, it were quite late on that you actually secured a playoff spot, but you finished fourth, you're in the best position. I feel the pressure's all on you. I just have a feeling, I think it's going to go all the way, and I think Southend might nick it 1-0 like they did in the fixture earlier on in the season. So, yeah, sorry, Tom, about that one, but that's my prediction. I'll ask everyone the prediction on each game. We'll start things off with Sammy. Sammy, what's your prediction for the other game, the Southend-Rochdale game?
Yeah, I think I'm probably leaning more towards a Southend win, but part of me also thinks that potentially it could go to penalties. So I might go for a 1-1 draw with Southend to win on pens.
Fair enough. Then everyone as well.
Keeps it interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, to be fair. I look at both games, and particularly that one, I think that's going to be the really close one for me, the Rochdale Southend game. But yeah, everyone, please remember to get involved in the live chat as well. Put your comments in for your predictions too. I know I've got one or two people who've come in there with theirs. Also, then, David, how do you see that game going? Who do you predict to win?
Well, I think it's really hard to predict who's going to win it. I think Rochdale should win it because they're the better team. They're the better team. Southend have only just got into the playoffs. So Rochdale have been up there all season. I know York have beaten Rochdale twice this season, but I think Rochdale are a better team than Southend. So I think Rochdale might just sneak it, maybe extra time.
Chris, for you then, who do you see winning out of those two?
I think there'll be goals in this game. I think there'll be goals, certainly. I think both teams are attacking teams when they want to be on the day. If Rochdale come out fighting, which they can do, they can be an exciting team, Rochdale. I agree with Sammy. I think it's going to be a 2-apiece, 2-2 draw. Penalties, I don't know. There's going to be a hero or there's going to be a villain, I don't know. But it's going to be 2-2. And as for penalties, that's another lottery again, yeah. I don't know. It's a toss of a coin then. But I'm going for 2-apiece and hopefully a good game. And again, a good ref. Come on.
Yeah, hopefully. I know that's one of your major points tonight, I suppose. I know a few people have actually referred to the York Halifax game with the officiating there. I don't think either set of supporters were too happy with that for different reasons. I don't think it's a case of York and Halifax actually agreeing on the decisions at all. Everyone knows my opinions on that one. But yeah, moving back to the other game, Oldham versus Halifax then now. Chris, we'll stick with you then. Just looking at this one, someone's mentioned there, and this is a key point that, when I'm previewing the game myself and trying to think of a prediction, why I feel like there's one tiny thing why it could be in our favour is the fact that, one, like Rochdale in their fixture, the pressure's all on you. You finished higher up in the league. Also, it's been 18 years since you've been in the playoffs. I feel the pressure's on you in that terms of things as well. And also, it's a sellout, and you're the home side as well. And something as well you could also mention there is the fact that, if I remember rightly, and you can correct me here, whenever I've noticed Oldham playing a big crowd, they've not turned up. And also, you'll be well aware of what the Oldham fan base can be like. It can be the greatest fan base on earth when you're doing well, but it can also be the worst and most toxic fan base as well when you're not doing well. And if it's getting late on and it's still 0-0, and the fan base turn against Oldham, it might be in Halifax's favour. Yeah, what's your thoughts firstly on that?
Well, firstly, thanks for playing mind games, Luke. I appreciate it. 2 days before the game, I can't sleep now tonight. No, I think what you said, you've got, there's a bit of meat on everything you said there. I think we have bottled it a couple of big games. We had the pack out the park against Kidderminster last year, was it? And we lost, we blew it. I go back to what I said initially, Luke. It's a lottery. I know we've had a couple of messages going backwards and forwards, but I just hope that it's down to the day. Both teams do turn up. They play football, honestly, truthfully, straight to the game. And if we play our best football, I think we'll beat you. I'm not being rude, Charlie. Facts. I'm not calling you. I think Millington's done a great job up there. You've had your share of injuries. You've got 3 players that might be coming back. We don't know. Again, that could be mind games by Millington. But we've got a few players that might be coming back, so it could be Mellons playing mind games. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a tough one. It's not. Without being rude, I would have chosen Halifax. I'm quite glad we can. With all respect, and I'm not being rude by saying that. Please don't take it the wrong way. The best team we've seen all season at Boundary Park has been Forest Green with that in the first half. And we beat them 1-0. We lost to York at home, and when I say we lost to York at home, we lost to York. They didn't beat us. We lost. We give them the game. We didn't turn up for that game. We played better away at York, I feel. But Forest Green, the best team that we've seen on our park this season, and. So, yeah, I'm not really bothered about Wednesday. I don't think we've got nothing to really fear from you guys. We've got to fear ourselves, as you rightly say. If we don't turn up, if we don't perform, and if we bottle it, and if the fans do turn, which I don't think they will, by the way, Luke, I hear what you're saying, and it has happened in the past. I think everybody's ready for this now. We need this relief, mate. I was there 34 years ago today when we beat Sheffield Wednesday 3-2. I was on the park. I'm too old. I'm too long in the tooth to get on with this now. I need some success.
Get away from it.
Yeah, no. You follow me. No, but I think the bottom line is, we've got a generation of people your age, like you say, your age ago. We was in the playoffs. We lost to Blackpool. These are all it's history, but we've not had a good history. We're the worst club in the last 20 years in football. In the top 5, we're the worst team to follow for any wins or promotions. So we do something. I don't know. It's an album. I think we'll beat you guys on Wednesday. But I'm not being rude. I'm not taking the mickey by saying that. I'm not dogging you. I'm not saying it's going to be a walkover. But I do think we're going to beat you, Luke. I'm sorry, mate, and hopefully you can still speak afterwards, mate. Yeah.
Now you'll hear my prediction in a sec. So yeah.
All right. Well, I'm expecting. Listen, if you say Oldham are going to win, I'll be shocked. I'm the able monster. I'm not having it.
Yeah, someone else has actually come in with the comment as well, and actually said that they feel that, and they've actually said, I think it's an Oldham fan who actually come in and said, if Oldham don't get promoted, Mickey Mellon needs to be sacked at the end of the season. Is that a statement you'd agree with?
Can I just say I blow hot and cold on Mellons because I can change my mind quicker than change my socks, because I think during the week when we lost at Forest Green, and I thought we had a bad game down there. We didn't turn up down there. We didn't play well. We played okay. We did okay at York on the Friday. On the Monday we didn't turn up down at Forest Green, and then we beat Ebbsfleet, and all of a sudden we're back on euphoria again. And with all respect, Ebbsfleet we're already down, but you can only beat what's in front of you. Mellons has not had an easy season. People say he's a dinosaur. I've probably said it myself. But he's a bit roncy, isn't he? He does what he says on the tin. He's got us in the playoffs, and he's got, out of all the managers here, you can't deny this, he's the one that's got the best history. He knows how to do it from here on in. If he can really, really turn our players round, he can really deliver. I don't think manager-wise, there's not one of you against him. You know what I mean? I don't think you can really stack against Mellons that way. But if he goes for that bloody 5 at the back, or that geriatric midfield that we can't pass the ball, you know what I mean? I think we could be all screaming for his head by Wednesday night, But I think Mellons is going to get his third on his contract, because at the end of the day, the 1st of June is the final. So no matter what happens, it's late in the year to be changing managers. I think future planning. Mellons won't get sacked. You'll see his contract's out next year, and we'll see what happens. But I don't think he'll get fired, no, and I don't think he should be sacked. With all respect, let him see his contract through and run his term for once, which would be a shock for an older manager, won't it?
I'll play a few more mind games with you here. Since the new format's also come into place, no side who's finished 5th in the past has ever got promoted from the National League. So potentially you could be the first side to do that. Paul, just coming to you then. Go on, sorry.
Before you move on from your silly mind games, you young man, it's about time somebody who finished 5th won it then, isn't it? You know what I mean? Carry on.
Yeah. I knew you were going to come back and say that. But no, Paul, just coming to you then. You look at yourself looking at this game. How do you see it going?
I genuinely can only see an Oldham win. Apologies, Luke and Sammy. I just, like I stated before, they're at home at Boundary Park. It's a one-off game. Form, I think, just has to go out the window now. They both had time to prepare, and I think, I could be wrong, but Halifax have got a lot of their squad back. So, at least Millington will have a stronger squad to pick from. He managed the minutes in that last game against us at Wealdstone. So I think he knows probably what he's going to pick. And they'll give Oldham a good game. Of course they will. It's the playoffs. But I just think Oldham, 12,000 people there, just everything stacks in their favour. But who knows? So I've gone for an Oldham 3-1 win, Luke. So.
Right, okay, we'll move on to Sammy then. Sammy, of course, a Halifax fan. I don't think you're the most optimistic yourself at the moment either, so I kind of need some positivity, I suppose. But yeah, firstly, how do you actually see it playing out? And I know I've already asked you how confident you are, but can you further just express your opinions, I don't know, going into this game?
3-1, yikes. I mean, I don't think it's going to be pretty for us, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. Fingers crossed anyway. No, I think, like you say, Paul, form goes out of the window with playoffs, and especially when it's a derby game like this, I'm really hoping that the atmosphere will contribute massively to help the players to think, this is our time. We need to just go for it. And I think they'll come into it with something to prove, really, because at Wealdstone it was dire, and we did play a B team, and I think the thinking behind that was to rest players for this game, which I don't fully understand the reasoning why, because of the gap between the two games. But I also understand not wanting to risk any injuries. But yeah, I think they'll want to come back fighting from that, because we took quite a lot to Wealdstone, considering it was a bit of a dead rubber because we'd already secured our spot in the playoffs. And I think, yeah, when you've paid all that money to go down to North London to watch that performance, I'd like to think that they want to come back and give us something to celebrate, give us a bit of hope. So I don't know. I think I'm trying to not think too much about the poor form that we've been on, and just think, right, this is a clean slate. It's a cup final, essentially. Let's just give it the best shot that we can. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to confidently say that we're going to win, but I do think it will be a close contest. I don't think it's going to be quite the drumming that Paul has predicted there.
I suppose for me as well, going back to you, if you actually look at Halifax, we're the side that have actually, it's the second year running inside the playoffs. We're the only side from last year to actually maintain a playoff spot once again, which I think is a massive achievement in itself, considering the budget. I think compared to all you guys, you think of Halifax's budget, it's a lot worse than everyone else who were competing within the playoffs. I know we're former Football League, so we're quite an ambitious club wanting to get back to the Football League, but in terms of fan bases as well and history compared to some of the sides who are involved in these playoffs, we're competing with some huge clubs. And I think in a way everyone's kind of written us off. But in terms of the actual Halifax fan base, and Sammy, you'll probably agree with me here, I feel like it's quite a demanding fan base overall. If you actually look at us over the last couple of years, because we've been so ambitious in terms of always striving for the playoffs, there's also been a lot of criticism from the fan base because it feels like it's a must now that we should get in the playoffs this season. And I get the impression that we're at a point now where it's a fourth playoff campaign in 6 years, which is impressive in itself. But in all 4 of those playoff campaigns, we've not got through the first stage. Do you feel there's a bit of pressure on Chris Millington and the side?
Yeah, I think there probably is. But I think when you look at the fan base and reactions across the season, Chris Millington has had a fair bit of stick for various results, a lot of people calling for him out after, just a couple of months of the season. And I think we do have a very reactionary fan base. When we win, everything's great. When we lose, it's like, right, Millie out. It's like, you just can't keep up. I mean, my dad's on the message board, and as soon as we lose, it goes into absolute meltdown. It's chaos. But I don't know. I think that there is a bit of pressure because, we want to reestablish ourselves as a Football League club. We know that we've got that history. We want to get back there. It's the second year in a row that we've managed to get a playoff spot with Chris Millington. But at the same time, like you said, Luke, we don't have the biggest budget. So it's actually an achievement in itself that we've actually managed to get to the position that we're in with the squad that we've got, because we can't afford, big, amazing players. So it's a humble squad and it's a young squad. They've worked really hard to get to where they are. So I don't want them to think that there's loads of pressure. I think they just need to go into the game and just take it as it comes and just play football.
Yeah, I totally agree. For me, overall, I do see this as a free hit. If I'm being honest, I look at Oldham. I think, like I said, I keep repeating it. The pressure is all on them, I feel, with them being the home side, with the size difference between the two clubs. Well, I actually look at Halifax and I just think we've got a massive injury crisis. I know everyone and each club will probably come on here and say, well, we've got so-and-so out. But if you actually look at the injuries that we've got, the injuries aren't just to fringe players, they're to key players. The core of the squad isn't the same core of the squad that I believe's got us in this position that we're in today, going into the playoffs. So I just see it as a massive free hit going into this game. And we'll have to see what happens. Dylan, I'll come to you. How do you see the Oldham Halifax game going?
Again, it's a hard one to really predict with both teams. But if I had to say 2-1 Oldham. Yeah.
Fair enough. To be fair, I can understand why. Tom, I'll come to you as well. How do you see this one going? Come on, you've got to give us a bit of luck. You're a Rochdale fan.
This will be fun.
I'd love to give you some luck. I really would. But no, I can't do it. I can only see a fairly resounding Oldham win out of this one. I'm going to go 3-1 Oldham. I think they'll just have a bit too much for you.
Finn, coming to you then. How do you see this one going?
It's a difficult one. I think Luke and Sammy, you might be able to correct me, but I think Halifax do quite well against bigger sides and quite big teams. And they seem like whenever I see anything of Halifax playing, it looks like you maybe slip up against the smaller teams, but against a bigger team or a top side, then you do well. So I don't know. I can see it going either way. I assume pretty much everyone's going to say Oldham, so I'm tempted to just go Halifax just to give you a bit of support. Why not? I'll go 1-0 and Halifax on penalties.
I appreciate that. No, it's time for, I think, my prediction anyway. And I suppose you guys have all gone on the way of Oldham going on. And if I'm being totally honest, I can't see Oldham not winning. I do think it is theirs to lose. I think if we'd have had the squad together that from 3 months ago, when we played York away, David, you'll be aware of that. I think if that starting lineup was playing on Wednesday evening, I'd say I think we've got a very good chance of causing an upset here against Oldham. But I just feel overall there's a lot of new players who we've signed. There's a lot of fringe players who've needed to step up. And I feel like the occasion might just get to the better of them. I think Oldham are the actual better side now. I think they've got the better players. If it's man to man, I think they've got the better individuals. And I just think on the day, I think Oldham will win, and I think they'll win quite comfortably. I'm probably going to go for a 3-0 Oldham win. So I do apologise to Halifax fans for that one, but I can't see Oldham not winning. If I'm being honest, but you never know with Halifax. They've surprised me time after time. There's countless games that I can think of where we were going in as underdogs and we came out winners. So you never know. David, coming to you then, of course, the winner of this game will of course, face your side.
Yeah, I think you got a full house. I actually agree. I agree that I think Oldham will probably win. the way that Halifax get a result, I think, is if they keep it tight for as long as they possibly can. If they're to nick a goal and get in front, I think that then changes absolutely everything, because the crowd will start getting anxious, as they will at York in the semi-final. If we were to go a goal behind, I wouldn't particularly fancy that. I think that could play a massive part in one of these games. If an away side gets an early goal and then the home side is really struggling up against it with their crowd behind them, I think there will be an away win somewhere in these playoffs. And it could be at Oldham if Halifax can get that first goal.
I don't know if any playoff matches are actually playing tonight, but there was a stat yesterday that actually came out. It might have been you, Paul, who actually posted it. But I think there's no home side so far in the playoffs has actually won at home. So you just never know.
Sheffield United are playing now. They're 2-0 up, but it's completely different, isn't it, in the Football League? Because the best side has been away from home in the first leg. The best side in these games is at home. So I don't think it's actually a just comparison, in all honesty.
100%. As well, like you've mentioned, I think the format is completely different. And I think for me, that's what makes it so entertaining. But for you guys, suppose, who would you actually prefer? I know you could say it's the same question, but because you've said, well, Halifax have lost, so I'd rather have Halifax than Oldham because I think they're the worst side. But then again, you could look at it, the fact that Halifax kind of owe you one because of the previous two games. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I probably would just about prefer Halifax, but it's on the day, isn't it? York City are good enough to beat anyone else in this playoff side. There's no point beating about the bushes there. You look at the table, you look at the results that they've had throughout the season, the consistency they've shown throughout the season. If York City turn up, it is going to take a hell of a good side to beat them, especially in a semi-final at the LNER. I say they've got no one injured. Everyone is fully fit. He can pick his best side. We all know what the side will be. It'll be slightly different to the one that played Oldham a few weeks ago on the bank holiday. He's made a real interesting tactical tweak in the last 3 weeks. It has worked brilliantly for York, putting Joe Felix into midfield and moving Fagan Walcott, who's been partnered with Callum Howe at centre-back all season. He's now playing at right-back. So he'll stay at right-back. He's got two now left-sided defenders on the left side of his defence that he hasn't had all season in Crooks and John. They work beautifully there as well. So all things being equal, I think it's going to take a good Oldham or Halifax side to beat York. But I think the chances are, I think I'd probably just about prefer to play Halifax rather than Oldham.
How does everyone else? Who does actually everyone else like when you're looking at York? Everyone, how do you all see York as a side? Are they a side that you particularly feel, or do you feel because I suppose? And I've spoken about it with Oldham, I've spoken about it with Rochdale, but I suppose you could say the most pressure is on York because of the points difference between them and any other side. How does everyone else kind of view York going into these playoffs? Do you see them as a side to fear, or do you think on the day anything could happen?
I think they're absolutely brilliant. From what I've seen of them this season, we played them earlier on in the season, and it was a close game. I think we lost 1-0 at York, but up at our place, they absolutely bopped us off the pitch. Expansive football, creating chances. Obviously, they've got two of our ex-players in Cameron John and Tyrese Sinclair that we felt weren't needed anymore, and have obviously contributed massively to the project at York. And it's not just because of the position that they're in. I just think I think it's so unfortunate that there isn't a second automatic spot, because I believe they deserve it. They are factually, they are heads ahead, miles ahead of all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be fair, I totally agree. And everyone knows I've had my differences with York on the podcast over the season due to the fixtures and everything. But something I have to point out is the fact that for me, I think Barnet and York have been so far superior compared to everyone else. They deserve to go up via the playoffs. And I think the playoffs always are open, but I don't think anyone would be able to pick. I think everyone's option who they'd pick to be a winner would be different if it wasn't for York being in now. Maybe that's not the case. Maybe you all have your own opinions on who you think is going to get promoted. But for me, I just think it's either going to be York or Southend doing the unthinkable and doing something like what Grimsby did. I don't know what's everyone else's opinions. Does anyone else who's everyone else pointing towards actually winning the actual playoffs?
I think, I think York probably do it. I'm probably the same with you, Luke. I think it will be York, but maybe deep down, I hope it's Southend. But to be honest, York early on in the season, we drew 1-1 with York. Well, I think it's the first day of the season actually, and yeah, it was quite a good game, and I don't think we got turned over in any sense. I think we actually gave them a good game. There's good atmosphere at that game as well. But when we went to their place, absolutely turned over. Could have easily been 5 or 6-0 in my opinion. We looked awful, but to be honest, as much as we looked awful, it's more so York were just that good, and yeah, I think it'd be hard for anybody to stop them. And to be honest, as much as I want Southend to win, it would be almost a shame if York didn't win, because I think they deserve it so much. And you see with the free up, the free up campaign that they're trying to do, and it should happen, shouldn't it? And as much as I want Southend to win, it would be a bit of a shame to not see York go up, to be honest.
Dylan, for you, I suppose, would you be backing Forest Green? And that's something I will say, that everyone's kind of going quiet, aren't they, about Forest Green and then potentially winning it. I don't think I've seen one person actually back Forest Green to win it yet. Someone has actually come in and said, I think Forest Green. 2 people actually have just suddenly come in and said Forest Green to win it. Dylan, how do you see it? How do you see it going? Do you fancy yourselves?
You've got to fancy yourself, haven't you? I mean, I understand why we're very quiet, because that's kind of summed up our season's been quiet, especially January onwards. But compared to York, I mean, we've got, we beat them earlier on in the season. Our place, and obviously that draw pretty much took us both out of that title race. I don't get why people aren't talking about Forest Green there, because, as I said earlier on, you look at the fitness in our squad and the high calibre of players we got, of like players who have been there and done it through the playoffs. Christian Doyes did it with us previously, Ben Tozer with Wrexham, and the younger quality as well of Charlie McCann. Cal McAllister's probably been the most underrated player that's not been talked about enough this season. But if it genuinely did come down to the day between Forest Green and York, put all bias aside, I do think Forest Green gets the job done on the day. But say, yeah, I got to back yourself, haven't you?
Simon, who do you back then in the playoffs? Of course, you'd like to think we'd all back Halifax as Halifax fans, but if you weren't to back Halifax, then who could you see going up?
Well, do you know what? I was just gonna come in there with all this like love for York and how amazing they are. But when you think back to when we last York back in February, we scored twice within the opening 3 minutes, and then they managed to win a point, but through a penalty and then a last-minute goal. Like, they did not deserve to win that game. And I think if we were to do the unthinkable and beat Oldham on Wednesday, then play York in the semi-final, I reckon we'd have a good chance, of getting to Wembley. And by the way, just going back to your point, Finn, about Halifax turning up in big games, we actually haven't beaten any of the current playoff teams bar Forest Green. So, I think if we managed to do it against Oldham, I reckon we'd beat York, and I reckon we'd beat Forest Green if we were to get them in the final, So I don't know, maybe I am back in Halifax, but that is very optimistic. I don't know where that's come from all of a sudden, but I think, you're probably right that York are the clear favourites, but I also agree with you, Dylan. I don't see why people are writing off Forest Green. I think, in my opinion, it will be one of those two teams at the end of the day. So, yeah, that's my 2 pence.
So I suppose for me as well, looking at Halifax, and I totally agree with your actual point there. If we do somehow get through the Oldham game, and I come back to the same point about Southend, that momentum that we'd carry then, there's a large following from Halifax. Of course, we talk about Oldham and them having a good attendance behind them. But if Halifax won, at Oldham then, in front of all those away supporters, it would give that squad so much momentum going into that semi-final. And I think they'd play with freedom. And that's kind of the hope that I'm hoping that to go into the playoffs, is the fact that, listen, we've got no pressure on us. We've had a massive injury crisis. We're not on the best of form. Let's just play with freedom, and you never know what might happen. And I suppose for me, going to Oldham, then going to York, it's kind of got that fairy tale for Halifax, where you're beating, Oldham, some say a rival. We've had our differences. Then playing against York, who we certainly have had our differences against, and then a final, against potentially Rochdale or Forest Green or Southend. For me, overall, it does feel like it's written in the stars. But I suppose I could be getting far ahead of myself there as well. As well for you, Chris, who do you back overall in the playoffs? Are you backing the Oldham?
I've got to back Oldham. I want to know why you going up to York when we're playing them. Why are you going to York? What are you coming up to York watching Oldham for? No, I think.
Well, you mean the new game? I meant to vlog that game, and then I would.
Yeah, well, don't bother. Keep away. You're going to be
It wasn't a good game either, was it?
I think that, to be honest with you, I think going into the last week of the season, I didn't want to be playing Southend. Let's say that. I didn't want to be playing Southend. I don't agree with you about Forest Green. I think Forest Green have lost the impetus a bit. They might well be fit in that. The team that bother me, the two teams that bother me, I'll be honest with you, Southend and York City. I think we can beat both of them on our day, but equally so, I know they can beat us on their day. I'm sure you can beat us on our day, and Forest Green proved they can beat us the other week. So it's anybody's. It really is anybody's. But I do believe that we've got a chance. We've got a chance, and we've got to take our chance. We've got to go for it and try and do the best we can. Keep our season going as long as we can. Hopefully beat you guys on Wednesday with all respect. And I'm not saying that rude. I've not said anything any result, no silly scores. I think Paul looks younger. When he said 3-1, it took years off him, by the way, when Paul said that. And I think that at the end of the day, I think we can beat you. We probably are expected to beat you. But in football, the unexpected often happens, doesn't it? You know what I mean? I don't know what Sammy's been drinking the last 5 minutes or so. All of a sudden, she's beating us, York, Forest Green, Barcelona's next, European Champions League. Here they come, my God. No, I think we're going to beat you, and then we're not frightened of who else you've got to play. Bottom line is, we've got to win 3 games to get up, haven't we? Whoever's going up from this now, two of us have got to win 3 games. Other teams have got to win 2 games, and that's the bottom line. And one of us on this screen will be happy, and the other ones will be fed up. And that's the end of the day. And football, that's football. Let's just hope we can enjoy it and, good matches. And if they fair games, that's what we're going to. If you beat us fair and square on Wednesday, Luke, good on you. If we beat you fair and square, yeah, you go up to York if you want, but you won't be watching Halifax, will you? Sorry.
No.
Could I just say? I think that obviously, if Oldham do get past Halifax, I think Oldham are the only team capable of giving York a game at their place. That's why I was so happy that we finished 4th, because if I think we had to go to York, we would have had absolutely 0 chance. That's why I give us half a chance to get if we were to get past Southend. Why I think we could have half a chance against Forest Green, because I think it matches up better for us. But yeah.
I think you're spot on, Tom. And to be honest, it's kind of weird that us finishing in 7th, I think we're in one of the strongest positions out of everyone, in the sense that we're not on the same side as York, which is nice. No disrespect to Forest Green, because obviously a good side, but they haven't beaten us this season, so we know we can at least give them a good game. York have already turned us over, so I don't really fancy playing them. If we got to the final, we might have to play them then, but at least we're in the final then. But I agree with you. It's weird that us finishing in 7th actually feels like we've got maybe the easier side of the draw. No offence to Rochdale and Forest Green, but that's the way that I think myself and many Southend fans see it.
I think, yeah, for me overall, if I'm being honest, I like the draw, because there's that fairy tale, isn't there, of the fact of if we beat Oldham, we beat York. And I think if you've got to get promoted, you've got to beat what's in front of you. That's how I see it. But I totally get your points, particularly Rochdale. I think in a neutral location against York, they've got a good chance at Wembley compared to them having to go to York. I think whoever goes to York's going to struggle. But I understand your point on Oldham, because I look at them as a really, and you may disagree with me here, Chris, but I look at them as a really gritty and quite hard to beat side, if that makes sense. And they always seem to do better against the better sides overall. I know Forest Green, they slipped up the other week, but I think in a playoff match against York, we saw the other week they were capable of getting a point there. And what people forget is that, although, for example, Forest Green have only lost once at home all season, York haven't lost many games themselves. If you look at the draws that sides have had at home in a playoffs, it can totally go out of the window. Barnet last season, of course, a clear example there. against Solihull Moors. I think they were unbeaten all season. It came to the playoffs and they kind of blew it, I suppose. I think they lost that game 4-1. So that kind of tells you the story of the playoffs. It does kind of go out of the window overall. And I think just finally coming to Forest Green, and I know we're all been quite negative. I think Dylan's probably been the only positive one about Forest Green as a Forest Green fan. So, but what I will say is the fact that if you look at them, they've only lost one game at home all season. You can say that, and that came recently against Gateshead. But what you will say is they've actually drawn a lot of games at home this season, a lot of silly draws as well, where they've kind of equalised in the last minute. Inside the playoffs, if they're drawing in extra time, then it goes to penalties, and then it's anyone's game. Dylan, what's your thoughts on that? Or do you think you could probably get the job done in full time? I think he might be on mute. Oh, there we go. I think we're struggling to hear you, Dylan.
Oh, you're on to put some electric on. It's going darker as well.
I know. It's all happening. Can you hear us now? Oh, no.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Let's see how Max and Paddy. Christ. Well, go on, ask the question. Sorry about that.
What I was saying is the fact that Forest Green at home, we've only lost one game all season, but they've drawn a lot of silly games. Do you feel that you'll be able to get the job done in the semi-final in normal time? Whereas if having to go to extra time penalties, it's anyone's game.
Yeah, I think the preparations are there. I mean, Cottrell's going to have a good analyst and a good watch of the Southend Rochdale match and prepare for it. We've recently just had Jordan Moore-Taylor back, who's hasn't played much game time this season, but he's one of the key figures in that Forest Green squad. Yeah, I just see us. People are saying, all these draws, missed points, whatnot. Yeah, it's football. It happens. Slip ups, whatnot. But we've done it before. Tranmere in the playoff finals, and leading up to our promotion up to League Two, we were consistent playoff finishers for the 4 or 5 years. So we know what this league's about. We know what teams are about, and I think that's where we got that extra edge. Steve Cottrell as well, the experienced manager, he knows what he can do within this league and what he can do with a squad and what he can come up against. So I feel like, it's like Oldham as well. Mickey Melley knows this league like the back of his hand. That's massive advantage against these other teams. And I just think Forest Green will do it against anyone,
Paul, who are you thinking then overall?
Who am I thinking? Southend's a dark horse, but I think you can't look away from York. And David's completely right. They've come into it with a great amount of form. They're the second best team. Many have said they're the best team that they've seen play against their respective teams. I think Barnet were just that slightly more consistent over the 46 games to get them the championship. But I think Southend will get to the final, and I think York will prevail in that.
Fair enough then. Has anyone got any final points yourself, Paul, or anything before we bring things to a close?
No, listen, I'm the only one on here that's not involved in the playoffs as a fan, so I just wish you all the very best of luck, guys, and enjoy it. I have my own stresses from the last few months of the season, so I'm happy to sit back and watch it as a neutral and see how it all unfolds. And I agree with Chris. I think we just want to have some good competitive games, a good advert for the National League, the league we all love. Hopefully we're not talking about referees. I was at the Notts County versus AFC Wimbledon playoff semi-final the other night, and the referee was absolutely diabolical. He was so out of his depth, it was embarrassing. And I just don't want to see that affect a game of these magnitudes. And whoever prevails, enjoy it. Enjoy your away days. Enjoy your trip to Wembley. And, I'll see the majority of you, I guess, next season in the National League.
Sorry, Luke. Just one more thing on the York point.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I don't know if I'm alone in this, but I genuinely keep forgetting that they hadn't won the league for some reason. Probably because of how good they were. And this is no disrespect to Barnet, because I know Barnet were brilliant over the season as well. But honestly, in my mind, I just keep thinking, hang on, York are in the playoffs. They haven't won the league. I don't know why, but for me, I just thought they were. I keep thinking and forgetting that they aren't actually champions. They were that good over the season. So I think, yeah, for me, it's got to be York.
I think a lot of people agree. I think they look at Barnet and I think they look at York and they just think those two are far superior compared to everyone else. I will say on Forest Green, not when we went away to them and we actually only picked a point up there, but when they came to our place, although we won, I did see patches of real quality, something that I've not just seen at the Share this season. So you just never know in the plus. I think there's a case for everyone. I don't think anyone's backed Rochdale to go up. Then again, on the day, they're probably the most impressive side that I've seen at the Shea all season play football, and the away fixture as well when they beat us there. They didn't play particularly well, but you could tell overall there was quality in that side. So I suppose on the day, it literally could be anyone. For me, I'm just happy to be in the playoffs. Paul's just happy to be here. He's happy to, as Lee in the comment sections mentioned, he's happy just not be picking up his P45, which he would have been doing if his side did get relegated. But no, I do appreciate you all for coming on tonight. I know it's probably been a long one.
It's been a pleasure, mate. And, when Paul sends us a cheque for us sending Alex Reid up for him to save Wilston, that'll be another thing, won't it, But no, I think, listen, let's just enjoy this next few days, yeah? Let's all keep positive. Let's be friendly. It's been good banter tonight. It's been nice to have a Rochdale fan on, no swerving. It's been lovely to have a bit of intelligent conversation with him. I don't know where you found him. I don't know where he's come from. He's obviously an Oldham lad. You've got masquerade as a Rochdale fan. No, I think it's been good banter, good crack. Nice to hear different people's opinions, and like I said, hey, it is what it is. We're in the playoffs. Let's just profit by this time, and let's enjoy the rest of the prolongation of the season while it can. And let's hope the best team wins. At the end of the day, whoever it is, if it was fair, York would go up because they're 23 points clear of us and they're 20 odd points clear of everybody else. I get that, but equally so, there's no fairness in football. It's at the end of the day. It can happen anyway. Bad decision, lucky bounce, own goal, it, injury, hamstring, you name it. It can happen, can't it? So, end of the day, it's a lottery, like I said to you, it's a lottery. And, let's hope that we all can still speak civilly afterwards. And that includes you as well, Tom.
If you all want a bit of a...
Not sure about that.
For your sides, I can give you one. Because when York fluked their way out of National North in 2022, we beat Brackley. We were away to Brackley in the semi-final. And we finished that season 20 points behind Brackley, yet we still went there in the playoffs and won and got promoted. So anything can happen.
Stop playing mind games with me. It's not working. I'm off for the mind games.
No, but I do appreciate everyone who has come on tonight and everyone who's actually tuned in. We've currently got over 100 people listening in, which is great numbers once again tonight. So I do appreciate that. Please remember to like and subscribe, everyone, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.